Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to say if and when, and we're going to need to learn two different forms to do this. Now, the first form we're going to learn is actually useful for saying both if and when, depending on the sentence. And this means that something might or might not happen. So let's look at this form. First, get the verb stem. Then attach 으면 if it ends in a consonant, or attach 면 if it ends in a vowel. Then finish the rest of the sentence. Or attach 요 if it's used at the end of a sentence. For example, 하다 would become 하면, and 먹다 would become 먹으면. For verb stems that end with the consonant lir, just attach 면 to the end. So 살다, to live, would become 살면. And for verb stems that end with the consonant 비읍, remove it and then attach 우 as usual, followed by 면. So 맵다, to be spicy, would become 매우면. But before we learn the other form that we need for this lesson, let's just take a look at several examples of using this 면 form so you can see what it looks like. 추우면 눈이 와요. It snows if it's cold, or it snows when it's cold. So this means that being cold might or might not happen, but if it does, it snows. 사전을 사면 얘기해 주세요. Please tell me if you buy a dictionary, or when you buy a dictionary. 제가 모르면 힌트를 주세요. Give me a hint if or when I don't know. 쿠키를 좋아하면 제가 더 만들어 줄 수 있어요. If you like the cookies, I can make more for you. 저를 도와주시면 돈을 드릴 수 있어요. I can give you money if you help me. 아까 창문을 닫아서 덥지만 열면 시원해요. It's hot because you closed the window a little while ago. But if you open it, or when you open it, it is cool. So the form we previously learned was only used to say that something might or might not happen, and if it does, or when it does. This form, however, is used to only say when something happens, as in the time when something happens. So to use it, first get a verb stem, then attach 을 때 if it ends in a consonant, or attach lir followed by te if it ends in a vowel. Then finish the rest of the sentence, or attach 요 if it's used at the end of a sentence. For example, 하다 would become 할 때, and 먹다 would become 먹을 때. For verb stems that end with the consonant lir, attach 때. So the verb 살다, to live, would become 살 때. And for verb stems that end with the consonant 비읍, remove it and attach 우 like usual, followed by a lir and then 때. So the verb 덥다, meaning you feel hot or the weather's hot, would become 더울 때. And this form can only mean when, it can't mean if, because we're talking about the actual time when something happens. So here are some examples of this form. 심심할 때 영화를 보세요. Watch a movie when you're bored, or literally, at the time when you're bored. 배가 고플 때 이걸 먹어요. Eat this when you are hungry. 우리 이따가 만날 때 빌려주세요. Lend it to me when we meet a little bit later. 비가 올 때 밖에서 놀 수 없어요. I can't hang out outside when it rains. 초아 씨가 춤을 출 때 가장 예뻐요. 초아 is the prettiest when she dances. 제가 어렸을 때 선생님이 되고 싶었어요. I wanted to be a teacher when or at the time when I was young. Notice in this sentence how it's being used with a past tense verb stem. So when are these two forms used? Well, let's go back and talk a little bit more about 면. 면 is only used in any hypothetical situation, something that might or might not happen. In this way, it can mean both if that happens or if it happens when it happens, or if it even happens at all. However, the 때 form is only used to talk about the time when something happens. It's used for something that either already happened, or is happening, or will happen. So in this way, it only means when that thing happens. In this sentence, using the 때 form instead would be incorrect. 그 남자 or 여자 정말 좋아하면 한국어를 배우세요. If you really like that guy or girl, hypothetically, if you really like that guy or girl, learn Korean. So if you were to say, when you like that guy or girl, learn Korean, it would sound a bit awkward because we're talking about something that might or might not happen. However, in this sentence, using the 으면 form would be incorrect. 작년에 우리가 만났을 때 공원에 갔어요. When we met last year, or the time we met last year, we went to an amusement park. So it would be incorrect to say, if or when we met last year, since we already did. It's not hypothetical. Alright, before we go, let's do a quick conversation example that uses some of these concepts. So here we have two people, Irin and Sergi. First, Irin says, 내년에 졸업하면 뭐 할 거예요? When or if you graduate next year, what will you do? So, what will you do when you graduate next year? 글쎄요. Well, I'm not sure. 이린 씨는요? How about you, 이린? 저는 식당을 열고 싶어요. I want to open a restaurant. 그러면 요리를 배울 거예요? In that case, or well then, will you learn cooking? 네, 이미 배우기 시작했어요. Yes, I already started learning. 돈은 있어요? Do you have money? 식당이 비싼데요? A restaurant is expensive. 네, yes. 제가 요리를 잘하면 부모님이 도와주실 거예요. If I cook well, my parents will help me. 그럼 만약에 식당을 열면 저도 거기서 일하고 싶어요. Well then, if you open a restaurant, I also want to work there. Note, 만약 or 만약에 can be used together with the 으면 form, and it adds a stronger meaning of if to any sentence.
내년에 졸업하면 뭐 할 거예요? 글쎄요. 이린 씨는요? 저는 식당을 열고 싶어요. 그러면 요리를 배울 거예요? 네, 이미 배우기 시작했어요. 돈은 있어요. 식당이 비싼데요. 네, 제가 요리를 잘하면 부모님이 도와주실 거예요. 그럼 만약에 식당을 열면 저도 거기서 일하고 싶어요.
So in this lesson, we learned two different ways to say if or when. So practice both of these forms before moving on, and I'll see you again in the next lesson. 그럼 다음에 또 봐!